Hi, thanks so much. We're going to shout because we want you to hear what we're saying, so it's really important. And I'm worried I couldn't, when we were standing at the back, everyone couldn't hear. So we're going to be Amdram special, really loud, talking about ESG today. It's a very important topic. Thanks. So I'm Juliet Kinsman. I am a sustainability, I'm going to say enthusiast, sustainability editor of Condé Nast Traveler magazine. I work with hotels. And I have an esteemed panel with me. I'm sad that we haven't got two of the members who of the panel who are originally going to be here with us. So Mike from Sordays and Canopy and Stars can't be here. I would have loved to have had him here talking about building a sustainable business strategy, because I don't know if you know, but Sordays is was one of the first B Corp certified businesses in the travel sector, and also it has a very unique business model which is based on it being employee owned. So I think if we're going to talk about a better business, it would have been great to have him here. And I'm afraid that Phil Hughes from the Bull Inn in Totnes, she is not well, not with the, the super cold that's going around. And I'm going to interject and try and remember some of the things she told me, because she had such a great perspective. We all enjoyed speaking with her, and I don't know if you know, but the Bull Inn was launched months before the first lockdown. And so, it was an extraordinary story. So we will try and channel Phil. And I will introduce you, of course, to my panel. So Will Ashworth from Watergate Bay and Another Place hotels you probably know. And we've got James Ghaffari is from B Lab, so that is B Corp, who is going to talk to you very much about ESG. And of course, Sue Williams, very much well known to this community as an exemplar of sustainability through their work at Whatley Manor. So, ESG. It's become a bit of a buzzword already, which is hideous. I hate buzzwords. Sustainability called a trend and a buzzword. Let's really break it down and let's use these terms with meaning. So we know it stands for environmental, social governance. It means creating, obviously, an ethical and purposeful business with core values, mission, and vision. I do know that. I'm reading my notes just because I'm a little nervous. But ESG, what does it actually mean? I'm going to start with you, James, please. And please, because when people research ESG, obviously B Corp comes up a lot.
Thanks, Julia. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. The idea of kind of putting it in a box, or maybe just kind of coming up with acronyms, it basically just kind of puts it over there. It doesn't put it right into the center of business operations. And also, I think it puts people off. It gets too scientific and they say, well, I don't understand what that is, so I'm not going to go near it. And so essentially, when we're talking about ESG or sustainability, what we like to do is just break it down just to basically mean working with your stakeholders better. So thinking about, as a business, who are my stakeholders? My employees, the customers, yes, the shareholders, community, the environment at large, and just thinking, how can I improve my relationship with those stakeholders? And so it's as simple as that. Obviously, there's more to it, but if we break it down, just thinking sustainability is about stakeholders. And essentially, that is what kind of B Corp's all about. It's a community of businesses across the globe in all different industries that are saying we need to put people and planet alongside profit and show we can be successful in doing so, moving from that standard way of doing business in the past, kind of mainstream business, which is just saying we need to do profit above everything else and just maximize value for shareholders, to actually saying, let's think about our employees, let's think about the environment, let's think about community, and by doing that, we are actually going to prosper and be successful as business.
Well, exactly. Now, who here knows what B Corp is? Please, hands up, hands up. Okay, I'm actually going to turn around. Who here genuinely didn't really know what B Corp is before here? Okay, which is fine. A year ago there would have been a lot more hands. We've come along. The UK is the fastest growing community of B Corp certified businesses. I don't know if you know how it works, but they apply. I mean, but you tell everyone. But there's a rigorous assessment, and you get an impact score, obviously. And what we're talking about is, in order to get that impact score, they're improving that ESG. Do you want to tell us a bit about the assessment, just so people understand what it means to actually be B Corp certified or B Corp pending?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I can give you the kind of the outline, the requirements, and I know Will has been through it. He's been through the ringer, so maybe he can give his So he can give his experience. So essentially, it's really about two things. Firstly, it's about a performance requirement. So actually saying, you're going to go through this online assessment called the B Impact Assessment, and you're going to answer questions about the entire operational impact of your company. So how you treat your workers, how do you set up your governance, what are your environmental emissions? And basically you go through that and then validate it against that performance criteria. So that's number one, it's a performance assessment. And actually number two, it is a legal requirement as well. So companies actually make an amendment to their articles of association, so they're their governing documents, to say that they will consider the impact of their decisions on all stakeholders and not just shareholders. And that's kind of a wider mindset shift. Before we were talking about what is the mindset of sustainability, and I think that change to your legal documents is basically reflecting the idea that going forward you'll make decisions as if everyone matters and not just the shareholders in the business.
So thank you. And of course, Chris Turner, the head of B Lab in the UK, has spoken at the Conservative conference this week and Labour last week, because you're working towards actually changing the Companies Act so that all businesses are mandated to consider stakeholders, such an unsexy word, stakeholders instead of just shareholders. And that is the key. Is that right?
That's correct, yeah.
Thanks. Sue, what does ESG mean to you?
Well, it's all about making sure that all that you do through business on this subject is very transparent and measured and evidenced. I think there's a lot of businesses out there doing really good work, and I think that's great. I can really see it sort of getting some traction in industry. But I fear it's not going to be enough for businesses. So whether you go down the B Corp route, which is absolutely a rigorous process for which you can come out with an accreditation, absolutely evidencing all your good work. I know my business, particularly Watley Manor, it's a leisure business. So we sought a different partner. In our case, it's EarthCheck, which is the number one accreditation, scientific accreditation body for travel and leisure. So that felt appropriate for our business. There's very little corporate in our world, but it's not dissimilar. It's a huge process, and it makes you look at everything in property, on property, and in the community.
So it's an accreditation. It goes through an assessment. Will, you made me laugh. You went assessments, accreditation. I mean, by the way, there are hundreds out there now. Yeah. You just said it's a lot of work.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is, and I'm not an expert, but we're going through the process, and therefore maybe a case study. But fundamentally, for us, we think it's the right way to do business, and therefore we went out to try and find an entity that would help us through a rigorous process, so that we could, at the end of it, really put our be proud of what we've achieved. And for us, it was B Corp, and it was that after assessing a number of options.
So that must be really intimidating for a lot of people. This is so close to my mouth. Sorry. It must be really intimidating for people to see. They want to start the journey. They hear ESG. But it's a lot of work. How can we encourage people to start that journey without putting them off? I mean, what were the first steps?
Well, I think a lot of people are probably doing a lot of this already, and their mindset probably has shifted from maybe where it was. I think you have to break it down, and so we found a B Corp advocate in Cornwall. They came and spent quite a lot of time with us. They broke it down into the component parts, which was really helpful, because we are a business that's been around for 55 years, and therefore it's a little bit like turning an oil tanker, and therefore we needed to know that we could get where we needed to be and what steps we had to take. So getting somebody in to sort of advocate on behalf of whichever organisation you think you want to work with was a big first step for us. And during lockdown we had a bit of time to sit and think, and we decided that this was going to be one of the key business strategies for us for for the next year or so.
I think that's what we're all realizing. It's been an extraordinary time to pause and reflect, and a lot of people want to do business better. Sue, what would you say are some of the tools? We know EarthCheck. Obviously, we know that B Corp is another accreditation. But what are some of the other tools to be a better business? Your environmental, social, and governance is improved.
Tools? Well, I think this is the thing. Over time, you need to find your trusted partners because there are so many out there. I think I want to just preface all of that by saying, if I may, I think a lot of people in business today are still treating the subject as if it's optional. And I'm afraid I'm here today to say that it's not. It's most definitely going to be enforced upon all of us. It's only a matter of time. So I think it's about finding a really trusted route to market and having just two. So we in total have 4 for Little Old Watley Manor because we went with a Sustainable Spa Association. Big spa, very specific, and we wanted to really drill down in that area. We have the Sustainable Restaurant Association. We're very, very food-led business. And then we have EarthCheck and another marketing and PR body called It Must Be Now Sustainability. So I know I've just thrown a lot, but I think without doubt I feel very comfortable now. It's taken time, and I suppose that's what I'd like to sort of share, is that getting the right partners in place pretty early doors is so helpful. It just stops you going off down a wrong rabbit hole or perhaps making a costly mistake.
I'm going to throw something out there and just say, ask yourself as a business, when you're deciding who these partners are, where's the money for this coming out of? Is it coming out of my PR and marketing budget? Mm-hmm. Or is it coming out of my operations? Is it really built into my business plan? Because, it needs to be operating as a better business. So are there quick wins? Is there, we talked about what is the low-hanging fruit. Will, what are some of the things you can do immediately to make a difference?
So I think we've been doing well in the sustainability, and particularly in the way that we use energy and we generate energy. And I think for me, we needed to take the journey, with the social and the governance piece kind of almost more than we did with the environmental side. But the low-hanging fruit for me is in the environmental side because either it's a wholly a renewable energy source which you can sign up to. It's the same price pretty much as any other tariff. Biomass boilers in our case, there is so much that we can do to decarbonise a lot of hospitality, and hospitality is pretty energy intensive or can be. But actually on the social side, for us, bringing this now to the wider team and saying, come on guys, we're going to do this together. It's going to be, our mission for the next year, is really engaging, and the team loved it, absolutely loved it.
Absolutely. I mean, we're hearing that by having a strong sort of manifesto around sustainability, it gives greater purpose, you get the better talent, you have better staff retention. So if everyone heard that, obviously it's green energy. Who here has not yet changed their energy supplier to green? Oh, that's good. Someone's lying. So yeah, we do need to decarbonize, we need to measure, we need to track, and we need to improve. And I feel, because we had a chat before, I'm using your wise words, but Sue, you made such a great point about COP26. It's going to be such a different landscape.
It truly is. I'm sure perhaps COP26 has reached most people's ears, but that starts on the 1st of November. It's 2 weeks. 197 world leaders are going to be up in Glasgow. The fact that it's happening in the British Isles has really obviously put a huge focus for the UK government. A slight embarrassment because 2015 Paris Agreement, targets were set at that time, or certainly starting with reducing carbon by 50% by 2030. The UK were the good guys when they returned from Paris that time. They actually put their targets into law. We're one of only 6 countries in the world where these targets have been legislated. However, we're not meeting them. So come COP26, it's going to be sporty. I think that's going to be the word. I'd love to be a fly on the wall and be there. But I just think government will have very few tools left in their arsenal post COP26 other than to apply additional taxes to businesses, climate change levies, tax, and it's simply coming. So that's why I think this piece about being evidenced is absolutely crucial, because people are doing good work, they really are, but unless you can absolutely kind of show it, I don't think it's going to help you too much in business.
I think, yeah, the time of just saying you're sustainable is almost over, and you'll have to qualify it. I think, greenwashing will have to be something in the past. I'm looking at my phone because Phil from the Bull did actually send some great tips. She has a manifesto, so I'm going to share her. She has the no Bull rules to trade by. Number 1, choose green energy suppliers. 2, be rigorous in procurement. We know that. It's all about the supply chain. 3, trade with those who get it. I love that. Just who get it. Question everything. Choose certified first. She is, I understand the Bull is B Corp.
No, I think they're on
They're
their way,
pending. Yeah, they're applying. And this is, for me, really important. If we all had T-shirts, we should put this on it. Think about who is getting your money. Who are you giving your money to? Every step of the way. Reduce and challenge. Don't create unnecessary journeys. That means, as in literally, avoid short journeys and excessive deliveries, and go grassroots. So that's the Bull's no Bull rules. Yes.
Yeah,
James.
I just really wanted to pick up on Sue's point, because I think because this is obviously about sustainability and we all kind of maybe live it every day, we dived into the tools and talking about frameworks. And Sue just talked a little bit about potentially the stick coming down the line of regulation on the back of COP26. And I don't know if we talked enough about the carrot. Will said earlier, it can be a really engaging tool or engaging project for your workforce. The idea of kind of moving forward with a sustainability project, or actually looking at the operations of the company and thinking, how do we do this in a more intentional, sustainable way, is a great kind of tool to motivate and keep your employees engaged. As I've been talking to a lot of businesses since lockdown who are even saying, we're engaging with B Corp because we can't go on any company retreats, or we can't kind of even go to the pub. We need some way of kind of engaging all of the workforce around something that really aligns with their values. And we've got a lot of data around, personally within the B Corp community, over 70% of the B Corps that had hired recently had candidates mention B Corp in the interview. And actually there's a Deloitte study, I'm probably going to murder this, but there was a Deloitte study that showed for graduates moving into jobs, they looked at first the About Us page on the website, and the second most visited page was the sustainability page. And I just think for an industry like hospitality and hotels, the lifeblood is your employees, and it's just so interesting to see.
We're a people business,
exactly,
and people
it's
forget
a people
that.
business. So yeah.
It's a wonderfully creative space. It is. It's a great tool to engage your staff with, 100%. It's just it just means that everybody in the business can really get involved, because you've got some smaller things where it's absolutely lovely. You look at the towels you're going to purchase or the things like that, and you do a deep dive into the provenance of all these items. And then you have also the heavier subjects of sort of energy, waste, water, and the supply chain, which are a little bit less sexy and exciting, but where the greater part of your carbon sits. We've actually measured our carbon footprint. 37% of our carbon sits in our supply chain. So that's, I guess that's for me to get stuck into. But it's all players absolutely in the team. You're right, completely.
James, you're right. And also, we're all here, ultimately, you are here as businesses to make money, and there's no shame in that. And so what we're saying is, I think we've all woken up to the environmental side of things, and the opportunity to measure and track that. But also, it's the S in ESG. It's the social impact, and it's the people, and it's harder to quantify that success when you're measuring how you work with people in your business. But I think in terms of a successful business, as we know, Sue, you can speak to that better than anyone.
It's we've long, I think, in industry valued our suppliers. I think we really have. But it, for me, feels like we're moving into kind of a whole new era. We actually held a supplier workshop, sustainability workshop, beginning of September, inviting our food and beverage suppliers in the first instance to just talk about the journey we'd been on, kind of where we were, some of the little bits of knowledge that we had, and then really moved into a whole afternoon of best practice. What a collaboration. It needs to be a collaboration. There's no real joy of being kind of ahead of the other guys. We want to bring all stakeholders with us. So doing that with our suppliers was a great first step, open dialogues, and we will hold multiple ones to. We have over 300 suppliers for even Little Watley, so it's a big piece of work. And like I said, 37% of our carbon sits there. So it's a big job.
And I think, we know tomorrow's customer will, exactly as you say, they'll be going to this part of your website, looking at that, the sustainability and what you're doing, and hear these stories. And it will be, we know customers still choose it by price and location, but it will be these human aspects.
Absolutely, yeah, and just walking around here today, I know there's a lot of people that are pitching to corporate clients as well, and increasingly working with corporate clients. There will be this expectation, or you will be asked to kind of prove what you're doing around your environmental, social and governance performance. And so kind of firstly, taking that first step of really engaging with it meaningfully and switching the mindset to think, let's kind of make commitments to our workers, society, the environment, etc. And then finding a framework that works for the business and can help you validate your performance is going to be really important to get that data as well in those kind of procurement processes.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important. People are probably here, you came wanting to know more about ESG, but you might have your own questions and what to do next. Please throw us difficult questions from the audience. I think, again, I'm going to represent Philippa from the Bull, because it was interesting how she talked about how having this manifesto really brought the team together, and that really, a happy hotel is the whole vibe, the culture. I certainly experience it as a guest, converts into a better business. Will, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges for you? And also, it's different between new hotels and old hotels.
Well, when we were chatting to Phil, it was striking that she had a clean slate to start from, and that would have just been incredibly rapid and quick, and every decision they make could be made through that lens immediately. They set the business up on that premise. Whereas for us, it is a slower process, that's for sure, but we needed to get to a starting point. And for us, understanding what our fundamentally understanding our carbon footprint, having the basic block on which we could then build, the rest of, our agenda, with B Corp in our case, but with others, until you get to that point, you can say you're sustainable until the cows come home. You've got to ultimately nail down, your current position, and then you have something to work from. So, that's a big step for us. And yes, we've had to invest in it and bring in a third party to do so. But for us, we feel that's the right position. Can I just pick up on one other thing we were talking about, and that is, hospitality, to me, sits at the heart of so many other businesses. It really does feel like the center of a community, and that's why I think we're in a almost unique position to run this agenda through so many of our other, supply chains, etc., and create a sense of change, from the center, because they rely on us. We sit at the center of these sort of communities that I think probably allows us to drive this agenda more than others.
Thank you. I think, Will, that's one of the key, probably the key word for me is community. I don't know if anyone's familiar with the book by the economist Raghuram Rajan. It is The Third Pillar. I really recommend that you read it, The Third Pillar. And he talks about the three pillars being state, market, and the third being the much neglected community. And all of us here, independent hotels, your opportunity to engage with your communities, leave money in your destination, support one another is so powerful. Please, any questions? Any difficult questions? We've got someone at the back. Thank you. Microphone coming to you. Just over here. Oh, there's a gentleman right at the back. Oh, we've got someone else. Lots.
Hello there. Just like to ask the question of James. ISO 14000 has been around a long time, and it's all about sustainability and the environment. So where does your business model sit with ISO 14000?
Yeah, so it's a great question. And B Corp, the way in which we're set up is basically to try and help companies to map their entire operational impact. So across your governance, the way you treat your workers, the way you treat your suppliers, your D&I, your environmental emissions. And in doing so, we embed all other kind of more narrow frameworks. So if you're a company that, you know, your buildings are BREEAM certified or you've got ISO certifications, then those can contribute to your overall score. What I would say as well is that what we're trying to do with B Corp is that we're a not-for-profit certification system, and so our kind of North Star is not to kind of make every company in the UK a B Corp. It's actually a change to the way in which business is done. You know, we want to work with businesses, you know, we've got over 4,000 businesses across 77 countries at the moment. And we want to work with businesses to kind of help them become leaders on sustainability. And by doing so, we want to kind of change the way, that system in which business is done. And so that's why we're across industries, and we're about mapping the entire operational impact of the company so that those businesses can kind of, you know, like Patagonia or Ben & Jerry's or the Body Shop here in the UK, can inspire other businesses to come on board and create change. Create the change that we need, obviously.
To be better businesses. I mean, let's make no mistake, the world is in a mess, and we need to do things differently. I mean, without getting too heavy on it, but you know, seriously.
Yeah.
And you know, capitalism is built on the take, make, waste model. We need to change that. We need to reduce waste. There's so much we can do, and us in hospitality. Sue, yeah.
What will be? Yes, there is.
Solution, please. Have you got
solution?
the solution?
Oh. Just don't be overwhelmed, I think. It's to take those steps and get going. There are some great, I mean, I've certainly had it levied at me, and I totally understand right now in terms of everything that's going on in our sector that, you know, it's just about survival. And I've had some people say to me, you're kidding me, you know, how can I think about sustainability right now? But this will give you the resilience in your business, and you will save appreciable sums of money. I know you can then go on, and your capital expenditure when it comes to boilers and things like that potentially are going to really stretch a lot of people, but there is a phenomenal amount we can do in our businesses that are relatively low cost but huge benefits.
Just being more efficient. I mean,
Yeah,
that's all it
truly.
is.
Yeah.
That's all it is. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, just picking up on what Sue said there, I think there is a really interesting kind of developing narrative about sustainability and resilience, especially in the wake of the pandemic, which has been the most challenging time for hospitality businesses that there's been. You know, if we can maybe set this against the backdrop of the financial crisis in 2008, back then the idea of sustainability was still quite niche, and it was kind of captured in CSR departments. And actually what we saw there was that as soon as that financial crisis hit, everyone just kind of cut their costs, and they just cut that department. They said, we're not doing that, we're focusing on business. What actually I've seen across all different industries in the last 12 to 18 months is that companies are doubling down on their sustainability now. They see it as central to their operations, and I think the idea of resilience is behind that. The idea of saying, well, if we can create great relationships with our people, with our suppliers, with our communities, and with the environment, then those relationships are the things that are going to get us through, because COVID was terrible, but you know, if we're awake to the climate crisis, it's the crisis before the crises. And so there's never been a more important time to create those great relationships.
It's the value of the human relationships in our ecosystems. Another question, more questions please. I've got one here, thank you.
Hello, hi. It's a message, well, it's a sort of question really for, I think Sue and Will mainly, to be honest with you. Sorry. In the process of, I mean, you're both kind of going through the journey of becoming more sustainable. It's a sort of constant thing. And I'm quite interested in, on that journey, what were the most surprising things you found out about your business? And what were the biggest changes you had to make, or you think you're going to make? So it's a big question, I'm really sorry.
It is. Just how much money you could save on the small day-to-day things. Stationery, you know how, I mean, the obvious one, becoming a paperless. Our accounts office is now paperless, so is our reception desk. And maybe that's behind the curve, maybe some are already there, but then we also then think, well, let's inquire about our stationery supplier, and we found fantastic with the credentials, and you really do the due diligence on your suppliers, having to find out where, it's all great, but is it coming from China, and then comprehending size and scale of the carbon behind that. But we've found that we could buy our ream of paper £4 cheaper per book. A little wins, but happy days. And of those, there are really hundreds through your business. Although I'll speak for ourselves. We think of savvy shoppers before, but this absolutely makes you focus and drill down. I mean, gosh, and we could go on. There are hundreds of examples. Happy to afterwards, but so many things.
I think from our perspective, knowing that although we did lots of things, we didn't put it into a program which would give us an end result. And I think when we realized that we had to actually engage effectively in some form of accreditation, that then allowed us to focus. And of course, you have your 5 pillars, and those 5 pillars guide you through the steps. And actually also how engaged the team are in wanting to be part of it. So yes, we suppose that we started at the very top of the organisation in terms of, we had to get ready for it mentally, but as soon as we rolled it out to the team that we were going to be doing this, the number of people who kind of want to get on board and be part of the committees that are looking at the 5 pillars actually is really enlightening, in fact. Yeah.
Very much so.
So, James, if people feel like, where do I start? Literally, where do I start? I mean, we've obviously given suggestions of going to partners, but if they literally stop in front of their computer and think we want to be a more sustainable business, we want to do it better, what does that mean? How do we start that journey as business owners?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing is obviously the mindset and getting the why right. So, like, why are we doing this? And I think the fact that a lot of people have come here today is a good sign that there is a real impetus and momentum behind engaging with this in a more intentional way. And so the best way to start, I think, is to have those discussions at a really high level, because that sets the agenda for the rest of the organisation. And then practically, I would say that the B impact assessment, which is our kind of tool for measuring the social and environmental
And you can
performance.
go on, can't you? You can make a start at that, and it gives you a really good guideline of questions. You get a sense of it without actually having to sign up to too much, right?
It's absolutely kind of free and confidential. So it is part of the certification process, but it's also being created as a public good. So if you want to just go on and measure yourself against your governance, your customers, environment, workers, and community, those are the kind of 5 sections, then just go on and create an account and you can start answering those questions. And just by doing so, it's an improvement tool. It starts firing off ideas in your head of, here are the policies and practices that we could be doing, but maybe we're not doing right now.
And we can't all do you can't do everything. We know the Sustainable Development Goals, 17, it's overwhelming again. But you can have a look at those if you know the SDGs, obviously the global goals, and you can think, what do we care about? What can our business align with? That we can't do everything, but you can make a massive difference. Any other questions, any other difficult questions or tips or advice for other people? I will say B Corp has also got a community of travel companies that are B Corp in the UK, which is worth looking at and getting a sense of what they do.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I always kind of like to stress is we've talked a lot about kind of accreditation and verification, getting your data right, but the certification and that kind of assessment sits at the base of what we do. So there is behind it a really dynamic and supportive B Corp community of companies that are willing to kind of collaborate and share best practice. So one of the examples of that is that there's a working group of travel B Corps that are kind of coming together to meet to raise awareness of the idea of sustainability and actually how they can grow awareness of that in their sector, and like this, the challenges that are specific to the travel or the hospitality sector, and how do they actually work together to try and solve some of those?
I think it's because what they're also doing is asking each other, how do we do this differently? Hotels, many hospitality businesses have followed the same old rules and patterns of procurement, it's just how can we work with like-minded businesses? I'm sure there are lots of sustainability-focused suppliers here. What makes them better? How can that be part of your sustainability journey? Do we have any other questions or anything? Got one here, thank you.
Hi. I know there's a lot of businesses that are really focused on this, but I also think there's a lot of greenwashing. How do we educate the consumer to really buy proper green?
Thank you so much. Well, I also work as a consultant. My consultancy is called Boutico. And I say to hotels that I work with, we can't just tell people we're green, show them, qualify it. And part of all of our roles and responsibility is to have these conversations and explain everything, demystify it. There's so many things we can learn from each other. Well, Will or Sue?
Well, just asking the suppliers to send their documentation, evidence the good work that they are doing. And if they are on the up and up, it's there and it's available to you, and you can draw down, put it in your evidence file, or kind of upload it for your evidences. So it's, in terms of, you really have to ask some very tough questions of your suppliers, because a few people will be outed as greenwashing. But it's true.
It's true. I mean, I think it all the time. I work, hotels send me things, go, this is our sustainability. I had one that was taken this weekend, and we're growing nice herbs medicinal herbs in our garden. I was like, that's guest experience. How is that actually having a positive impact on your destination, or really, helping your community? You have to just really qualify everything and demonstrate positive impact, I think.
Yeah.
We need science.
Yeah.
I don't know if everyone knows Science-Based Targets Initiative. Intrepid Travel has signed up to that. That's a good one as well.
So for us, we want to be able to demonstrate some form of accreditation, because for us that was going to lead us through a process, but more than that, it was going to allow us to demonstrate that we weren't greenwashing, because there is a lot of that going on, and we had never put it as one of the reasons to come and stay with us. Sustainability hadn't been that far up our agenda, but in a minute we're going to be shouting loud and proud about it, and because we'll be doing that, I think we will have shifted the perception of our business in our customers' minds to thinking, great, good place to go and stay, because I will also be doing so within an environmentally conscious business, which therefore must be better than somebody who isn't doing it. So there's a competitive advantage there, sure, but it also allows us to build that community, because of course it's customers as well as it is the staff and the local community too. So for us it's about having something that we can demonstrate that we have rigorously
and not just demonstrate. How are you educating guests? Because I think that's the other big thing, is an opportunity for hotels is to say, look, we're zero waste. This is how it works. Come and look at our composting. Come and understand the anaerobic digestive system in our kitchen that turns solid waste to liquid. It's engaging people with that. There are hotels out there that do amazing back of house tours. Get someone really charismatic. That is your impact in the world. If you can do that with your children who come as guests, that's a wonderful thing.
Oh, yeah.
Ken, what do you do at Watley in terms of engaging people with what you do?
Oh, well, I'd say certainly in the bedrooms we've got zero single-use plastics, but we've really thrilled. People just comment. They tend to commend us on what we're doing. We don't shout about. We do send them a letter pre-arrival that just says suggestions of things you could do, so encouraging them to park their car up and not to add to their carbon while they're with us. It's a small thing. We don't have a bin area at Watley anymore. We have our recycling centre. It's a small thing, but it's a cultural thing with the team. We've reduced down from 14 1,100 litre bins down to 4 per week. And it's things. And now I'm quite proud of our bin area, our recycling centre. And so taking the fence away so that guests walk past, they can see that it's all in good order and this is the stuff that we've done.
So I'm laying down the gauntlet to everyone to make these stories interesting. I can tell you Heckfield Place has got a borehole that gives out, I think, 20,000 litres of water. That's cool, that's interesting. Engage people with why that matters. There are hotels that have told me about their grey water and it explained their rainwater harvesting and those systems, and that's why I care about sustainability. It is up to us to be great storytellers. We must be storytellers about sustainability. Is a completely meaningless word. You want someone to come stay with you, go have a dinner party, and go, oh my God, you wouldn't believe it. They were, dealing with I'm going to say insulation around their windows in such a way that it reduced their carbon by this. And did you know that the biggest contribution to emissions in the UK is from heating and cooling our properties? True, that's true. And they are part of the solution, and that's why Insulate Britain are on the streets. But I'm just saying, make them care about things that matter and use your hotel as an absolute living case study in what matters. Because really, and I'm sorry, I can't overstate it, the world is fucked. It really is. Okay? I mean it. Sorry, I'm emotional because we have to do better. Sorry. Anyway, can anyone else?
Yeah, I mean,
share your
I mean, can we? I'm not sure you can. No, I think it's a great point. I mean, you said it exactly right. The point about greenwashing is really important. That shows that the main thing behind that is kind of data and verification. So having things that are verified by a third party that we've talked about today. And that point, just back to your point on the story, I think the story is a really a great part of this, because the way the way that I've spoken to companies in the past is that there can be a nervousness around that kind of greenwashing idea or that kind of thing. But the idea is not to kind of tell that story as if you're the perfect company. You know, don't say we've solved it. Don't worry, we've solved it. You know, because people, I don't think that builds a lot of trust. What builds trust with people is being authentic and saying this is the values that these are the values that we live by as a business. Here's where we're trying to get to, and here's the steps that we're going on the way. And actually, rather than that being too much transparency, that actually brings people in, whether it be your employees or your work or your customers. That brings people into the story and they identify with it and creates loyalty and that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
And this is a huge new market for us all. It truly is. So I was contacted last week by one of the top US travel agents saying, have you seen this article from Google? So Google are changing all their algorithms behind around searching for environmental travel, sustainable properties, this sort of thing. And it's absolutely enormous. And will we want that business in the future? Absolutely. We're less reliant on it right now because of the staycation still going to be with us for another 6-12 months. But, you know, we're always looking at future funnels. And if you can't evidence the fact that you are a business on your journey to achieving, to reducing, to decarbonising your business, you're going to lose a little bit of that edge of future markets.
That's such an important point. So I don't know if you all saw that. Exactly, it came out in the last week that Google will have eco badges. At the moment, the people making those decisions, as far as I know, I need to verify it, are susceptible to greenwash. So those hotels at the moment. So at the moment, the hotels that they'll be putting a badge on and all of that will be totally the algorithms will not be reliable yet. It is not science-based. But in a year or 2 years, it will be all science-based. And it will be your facts and your data and your science that dictates your ranking in sustainability. So you need to do it properly. It's not just how you talk about it. Will?
So, no, I was going to say that we've just been through a pandemic. I mean, we've all been through it. Everybody in the room will have been through it. And, you know, actually what we learnt was we have a remarkable capacity for change, you know, within the organisation that we didn't know that we necessarily had. You know, we would do something and it would sort of build ourselves up for it. And wow, you know, we've just, you know, done so many kind of sort of radical changes within the business aspect, which has gave us the confidence to know that we could make this change too, actually, and hence, you know, the lockdown gave us the mind space to focus on it.
Any more questions? Last question, that's it. We have one last question. Thank you so much. So we have to change and we have to do better. This sustainability and ESG isn't just a nice thing to do.
Hi, I was just going to say, I know collaboration is obviously key in all of this. And do you know of like an accessible platform where hospitality, like different hospitality sectors can share their practice and like what's gone well for them and not, because we're on our journey at the moment and like some big things have been really easy to get the information for, but some smaller things that perhaps you wouldn't think of straight away have been really hard to find and we still haven't found the answers yet. So is there anywhere that you know where we can share our knowledge and learn from each other?
Such a great question, if everyone heard that. Is there a community where everyone can share best practice and lift each other up so we can all do better in sustainability? Is that what you're asking? There are communities, but I'm just trying to think for everyone here, I mean, each other, in terms of, if you're a B Corp, you as B Corp, you don't provide that. It's the communities that are separate. It's identify with like-minded businesses, yourself, connect with them. That's why your supply chain is everything. I work with Inhabit that's here, and I was saying to them, let's connect with all the most sustainable drinks brands, sustainable fashion brands. Connect with them. Say, come stay at our hotel. Know about each other. We love the way you do things. That's what it is. We need to create these networks ourselves. I believe in the long run, but that's more for lodges and conservation. Now you mentioned it must be, it's not really a community, is it?
That's more. Well, there's lots of information on there. If you go on to now sustainability, there's a lot of free tools, but
regenerative travel, even getting involved in all of that. Actually, regenerative travel hosts lots of things. You don't have to be a member.
I think one of the things I've enjoyed most about the process is stepping off the edge, and then the community that you've built around it, the new contacts that you make, suppliers that have really supported you. I'm going to use an example in the room, but I was working with a particular brand of amenities and coming in their 50ml plastic bottles, and I really wanted to be moving away from these. And it's a big company. Am I allowed to name Molten Brown? Yeah. Thank you, Sarah. But honestly, I said to Sarah, said, "Oh, we're a big company. It might take us a while, and I would understand that." And I said, "Could you possibly make that 3 months?" And they did it. And so we have lovely little ceramic bottles. Now, we're a smaller hotel, not necessarily a practical option for some bigger properties, but they have a whole range of ideas that they've kind of developed. But that's just, if you meet the right partners and they're kind of, yeah, we can do this, and your community just grows.
Stronger together. Build back all these cliches that the politicians use.
Well, it becomes a sales opportunity for them in the future, and so it's
that's
a win-win.
it. Thanks so much. Please all just connect with each other. Let's all do better. But the hospitality industry has a long way to go. It's appalling the amount of plastic that's still in our supply chains. It's appalling how much waste goes on. We need to do better. So thank you so much.
Thank you.